I'm going to show you how to set up a drone fishing rig. I'm going to do it with just a coat hanger and 2 zip ties. So let's get into it. So the first thing you want to do is pick a coat hanger that's not going to flex too much. The coat hangers, let me show you. The coat hangers that flex too much are really going to depend on the weight that you're pulling with the drone. So you want something that's gonna be a little stiffer or a little more rigid. So that's why I went with one that's a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna zoom in close here, babe. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just cut this at a length. Separate that out. And then just cut that. You want to get sort of this back end as long as possible. Now we're going to attach it to the drone. So sort of get this part out of the way. We'll get our drone all set up. So there's a couple things to watch for when you're setting it up on the drone. Is that you don't want to get it in the way of these 2 cameras or these 2 sensors here. So the way I like to mount this is you got to kind of fit it off to the side. You want it centered and off to the side at the same time. So you want the weight that's not going to be hanging in the way of this camera, but you want it hanging in a way that whatever's hanging off of this isn't going to set off the sensors here. So if the sensors are too close, or if your weight or your lure is too close to this, the instrument is not going to fly right. So give me just a moment. I'm going to trim these up and show you how I attach this thing. Okay, you can cut it back. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove the this little insulation or whatever you call this here. I'm just going to cut around here with my pliers and remove that. There we go. So you just want to kind of straighten everything out and make sure everything's going to fit in those narrow channels. So I just want to make sure, I might go one more over. Okay, so you want it to kind of fit in these narrow channels. So I have to take a little more insulation off here on the side. Okay, so you see how that kind of fits in there? It kind of fits in those channels. Now I'm going to zip tie it, and there's a way to zip tie this to where you can still take the battery off and change the battery as well. Okay, now that I have the coat hanger in the channel, I'm going to zip tie it to the frame, and I'll show you how to zip tie that to where you can still take the battery off. So I'm just going to place my zip ties around, and I found it's a little bit easier if you zip tie it on a corner. If you leave this cornered edge on a corner, you can get it a little bit tighter. So again, I'm making sure my zip ties don't get in the way of this sensor or the camera facing the ground. So I'm going to pull that up as high as possible and get that as tight as possible. Oh, I don't want to kick it up there, so I'll get the second one ready. So the idea here is just to get the zip tie as tight as possible so that when you hang something off of the drone, that isn't going to go anywhere. So kind of push that forward. And it may be a good idea to put a little loop on the back here to bend this up, but that should work just fine. So I'm going to cut these off. And now, if I want to change the batteries, I'll just slide these down. Now I can change the battery and still have a functioning unit that, again, all I'm trying to do is keep these away from the sensors, spacing down. So if you have problems when you're flying it, you just want to make sure your sensors aren't being blocked by the zip ties. So now what I like to do here is just find a way where that's tight. And now I'll hang. This is actually backwards, but you can fly it. You just hang a loop, you hang your line here, you fly it out, which would be backwards, looking down. And then as soon as you're ready to let it go, you just loop it off like this. And I'll show you guys a video tomorrow when we go drone fishing how we do that.